It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in.
All right, welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here for another session of the B.R.E.D Investing Community. So excited for this session. We have Alex Coleman. He was a past guest on the show. He gave a whole lot of game, but it's only so much that can be given in a 1 hour interview. And when I'm kind of hopping around and asking different questions. So definitely appreciate you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us, Alex. So Alex will go through his presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can wait till the end. But without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Alex, and you can feel free to jump in, and I'm gonna have my notepad.
For sure. I appreciate you having me back, number one.
Definitely.
Yeah, so when you and I spoke, we discussed me coming on and talking about financing, but primarily just discussing partnerships, so like 50-50 financing, or 50-50 partnerships, or how you can do deals without using your cash or credit to buy, fix, and sell. So I put together some slides that primarily focus on that part of it, but I will touch on the other parts of financing because they can kind of all overlap, just depending on the way that you structure your deal, your partnership. So my name is Alex Coleman. I'm from Baltimore, full-time real estate investor, and I primarily do buy, fix, and sell. I started back in 2009, and I don't know exactly how many properties I've done, but more than 70, probably kind of coming towards 100. Along the way, I made a lot of mistakes, and they forced me to become creative, especially as it pertains to finance. And so tonight I'm just going to share what I've learned and creative ways to finance deals, especially when you're getting going. So I'm gonna just jump right into it. Types of financing, several different types of financing. Tonight I'm primarily going to discuss, one way, which like I said is, doing properties without using your cash or credit, and how you can find and get into renovations without doing that. But some of the other kind of financing is traditional banks and institutions, hard money lenders, private money lenders, and also equity and debt partners. So I'll talk a little bit about each one, just to, in case someone's not that familiar with them. So traditional banks are your credit unions, your community banks, your savings and loans, your big banks, your Bank of America, your Wells Fargo, things like that, banks like that have programs set aside for investors to either buy, fix, and sell properties, or buy properties and fix them up, rent them out, refinance them, B.R.E.D. And so these banks can have some good programs. I borrow from local institutions, especially community banks and small banks. And a lot of times they have programs that are geared towards investors in particular neighborhoods, maybe the neighborhoods they're located in, or that city that they're located inside of. And, a lot of times their programs are a little more expensive to get into, but the rates are a lot more favorable than say a hard money or even a private money lender sometimes. So I'll talk more about how I've used traditional banks and tied that into deals where I haven't used my own money to do them. Hard money lenders are typically individuals or companies that lend for investment properties. They're known for being able to fund properties quick, but they can be expensive. One of the downfalls to using hard money is just the interest rates that people pay. Some of the upside of hard money, like I said, is being able to close deals quick. A lot of times they aren't afraid to lend on properties that need work, whereas though some of the traditional banks shy away from properties that need a lot of work, and they're primarily looking for deals that may already have been renovated and rented out. Hard money lenders will take risk on some of those deals, so you can borrow the money to acquire the property and renovate the property as well. Private money lenders are typically individuals, or in this sense of private money, I'll describe them as people who are, individuals that are lending you money to do the entire transaction. So they're lending you money and they're pretty much acting as the bank would act. They're lending you the money to buy the property, fix it up, and sell it or rent it out or whatever it is that you want to do. Somebody's in your weight room. All right, I'm learning how this goes, man. So that's private money. And then tonight, what I'll focus on primarily is equity and debt partners and the difference between the two, and also why, it's advantageous to investors to lean one way or another, and how you're able to acquire people or find people who will lend you money to do that. So, all right. Somebody in your weight room. I think I got him in. So, excuse me, a debt partner and an equity partner. So individuals who will invest all or part of the money required to get into a deal, and they can leverage their credit for a loan. These people could be friends, family, other investors, other lenders, or people with capital that they're looking to invest. So to kind of dig into the difference between the two, a debt partner is somebody who is lending you money for an agreed upon return on their money for a period of time or a specific deal. So a debt partner will be somebody who's lending you money for a given period of time for a specific deal or for a given period of time. So it may be for a year, like I'll lend you $40,000 for 1 year, or I'll lend you $50,000 for 1 year for X amount of interest. An equity partner is somebody that you're giving a percentage of ownership in the deal. So they're saying $40,000 or $50,000 will be used in the deal, but instead of it being like an interest rate that's agreed upon, they will be getting a percentage of the profit, which I'll, dig into a little bit more. So, here's an example, like $40,000 for 12 months at 12%. Is an example of debt. It's an agreed upon amount of money for an agreed upon amount of time, and agreed upon amount of interest. Now, an example of equity would be, I'll give you $40,000 for 50% of the profit on, let's just say it's 123 Main Street, a property that you're doing. So a lot of people say, like, why would someone put up money for debt or partner on real estate or any of those things? And the number one reason I would say that I found that people are willing to partner with me on real estate is just because at the end of the day, like, everybody's ideal investment for their money is passive. Like, as we not only age, but also as we get more income and acquire more wealth, the ideal use of your money is to invest it in an investment that's as passive as possible, but gives you a return. So it's like, like my lender or somebody would prefer to invest with me because it's passive. It allows him a way to create income without having to be there himself and give time to that investment. So that's why people invest passively. Now, the thing that people are going to consider when investing in real estate or any other investment, I mean, like, people have this notion that you can't get people to invest in real estate, or you can't do real estate without any of your cash or credit. And I personally think you could do almost any business venture without your cash and credit, as long as the idea that you have, people feel that the potential return exceeds the perceived risk. So whatever that investment is, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a bakery, whether it's a barbershop or hair salon, whatever it is where somebody can invest their money passively and they feel like the chance of them receiving the reward that they're looking for exceeds the risk, then people will take a chance on that. And I think that one thing that we have that works well in our favor in real estate is that there's a tangible asset for people to see. So it's like, I may have a deal that I think is going to go great, and it may not go as great as I think it's going to go, but that person still sees a way where they're able to get their money back. Like, in between them losing money and us making money, there's a gray space where at worst, they get their money back. If it doesn't go as I plan and the market turns or whatever happens, it's still a very good chance that that person is able to get their money back. And I think that for a lot of people, that and that alone is a good reason for them to do it. So I'll talk more about it, but the risk kind of comes down to what they perceive you as. So I'm just going to give a scenario of debt versus equity and why a lot of investors would prefer to be in a deal where they have equity versus where they have debt. Although debt, has its upside. For example, hard money lender will lend you money and they'll lend it as debt. And the reason they lend it as debt is because it's just more secure for them. Whether you make money on the deal or you lose money on the deal, you owe them what you owe them. But the upside to the equity can be enticing to somebody who's looking to invest money. So let's just look at a simple scenario of debt versus equity, right? So in this scenario, we're using $50,000 as the amount of money that the investor has to invest. Now, in a debt scenario, $50,000 for 12 months at 12% will give them a $6,000 return per year, which is good. It's a 12% return. So they would get $6,000 a year. In an equity scenario, you take $50,000, 50% profit, use that that $50,000 towards a property. Let's just say you make $30,000 on that property with your $50,000 investment. That's $15,000 for each person. If you buy and sell a property inside of 6 months, you may be able to do 2 in that same 1 year period that you were able to do, where that $50,000 is out. So if you do 1 house inside of that year, that will give you a 30% return on your $50,000. If you do 2 houses and made $15,000 in that year, it'll give you a 60% return on your $50,000. Now, $50,000 isn't enough to buy a property outright and fix it up. So that's kind of why I discussed hard money lenders and, private money and traditional banks. So what I started off doing originally is I found a partner that had like 40-something $1,000 he could put up. We took his 40-something $1,000. Let's say it was $45,000. We went to the hard money lender, borrowed the difference that we needed to fix the property up, and then we split the profit. So for him, it was a great deal. We ended up making like $40,000 on the deal. He put up his $45,000 for about 6 months and he made $20,000 back. So for him, it was a great deal. For me, it was a great deal because I didn't put up anything. I just managed the construction part of it. We used his money to take care of the payments. Like, you go to hard money, you're going to pay closing costs, you're going to pay a monthly payment, and then you need money to start the work. So when people ask me, why would someone want to work with a newer investor over a more seasoned investor? When it comes to like investing whatever it is money they have, the difference is this right here. It just simply comes down to debt versus equity. As a new investor, I always tell people to just be willing to give more on the front end because it's all about just building a track record, showing people that you're able to take a house from the beginning phases to the end and, give a little more. So in this case, I'm saying, okay, if you give 50% of your profit, and an investor came to me with 50,000 or came to you with 50,000, if you can do 2 houses in a year and they can make, or even 1 house, they can make a 30% return versus working with me, I'm not going to offer the same thing that you would offer. So once most investors have been in the business for a while, they'll kind of move away from offering the equity, especially at like a 50-50 split, and it'll become more of a debt offer. So if somebody comes to me with $50,000, I wouldn't say like, hey, let's go get a hard money loan. We can partner on this deal and split the profit. I'd be like, okay, I'll take your $50,000. I'll take it for a year and I'll give you 10% or I'll give you 12%. Well, I was listening to a video the other day. Grant Cardone was offering 4% for his investors. So it's like, that's where you can make up the difference. It's like you take away, you're riskier. You know, let's be like, somebody starting off is going to be more risky than somebody who's been doing it for 10 years. But the difference is that my offer is a lot lower than your offer. So if you can, you know, if you can convince that person that although you're risky, you're capable, you know, a lot of people will take the risk, because it just comes down to the perceived reward versus the perceived risk. And it's like, which one is greater? Do you want $6,000 a year, or do you want 15 or maybe 30 if we can get in and out of a property? And that's a big difference.
Hi everyone, Sam here from the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Make sure to hit that notification bell and that subscribe button, and to visit us at blackrealestatedialogue.com.